listeners. Welcome back to SELA Women in Trades, the podcast, and happy Galentine's Day. We've been eagerly waiting to drop this episode, and we're excited to share it now, just in time for February, a month all about love, gratitude, and appreciating the people in your life, including yourself. Back in September, we had the opportunity to meet for the very first time since starting WIT back in 2022. It was exciting meeting all of you, but it was also exciting for me as well because it was my first time in New York. I've never been there before, so I was a little awestruck.
Okay, Jazz, that's amazing because first of all, I had so much fun meeting you guys, obviously in person because we talk all the time. But the fact that it was your very first time, I have to know what was your most favorite part about New York?
Ooh, good question. I mean, aside from what we're going to talk about shortly, I I really don't know. I think maybe afterwards, when we were all done planning our agenda as well as our budget planning, I really liked walking around and seeing everyone. I thought people exaggerated when they said that there are so many people living in New York City. There are people everywhere. So
Yep.
it's really cool just to kind of see people like in the morning going to work, kind of hustling, bustling, or just people kind of hanging out, all the tourists. I know Jenna and Caitlin, while we were waiting for our um, transportation, we walked around, got to take a look at the shops, saw a pizza shop. So yeah, I don't know. It was just a really awesome experience, and I cannot wait to go again. What about you guys?
I think that you're right. The cool thing about New York is that it's just there's such like an energy there. Everybody has somewhere to be, something to do. Like it's like just busy. It's
Yeah.
really cool because you can just think about like what everybody's story is.
Yeah, my favorite part is always seeing the different kinds of people there. I like to people watch. So I really liked, like, my favorite part was probably that night when we just walked around, like you were saying, in Times Square and seeing street performers, but also seeing people on their way to a show or just leaving a show, and seeing people going out to dinner, seeing families, kids, old people, young people, all kinds of diverse group that I just love watching, and everyone always is like smiling and happy for the most part, of course. But,
No,
like,
I completely understand where you're getting, Tina. Especially in this day and age, after the pandemic when everyone kind of just like you DoorDash your food, like you can DoorDash groceries, like you can do everything, or like even like shopping, you can go on Amazon and order stuff. So it's cool just to see everyone out and about as a community versus kind of just being secluded in your home. Because I used to go to music festivals here and there, but I think I forgot how awesome it is to be in the energy with a community like that. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's my favorite part about New York is feeling like you are in this huge community just with every other single type of person you could imagine.
yeah, all walks of life. I love it.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
that being said, do you know what my favorite, like number one favorite part is?
What is
Broadway
it?
shows.
Broadway
Broadway
shows.
shows. And we were so lucky because we got to catch and Juliet on Broadway. So for those of you who don't know, it's a spin-off of obviously the classic Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare, but with the question of what would have happened if Juliet didn't die at the end. So very ominous, I know, but the way they did this particular musical was so lighthearted and fun, but also packed a punch with all kinds of meaning and themes that we will definitely be talking about. So, huge spoiler alerts for those of you who have not watched it or know anything about it. You might want to stop here because we will be doing a deep dive into things.
Definitely come back, take a look, watch the show, hit pause, then hit play again, and come back when you're ready to hear all of our thoughts. like you said, Tina, there were a lot of great themes in there. I liked especially the what if theme. So as you said, what if Juliet didn't die in the end of Romeo and Juliet? So I think the show, it really highlights how our lives are shaped by the choices we make, emphasized by the cast performing Jessie J's song Domino, really driving home the idea that our actions set off a domino effect, ultimately shaping our lives. So what if Juliet didn't take her own life at the end of the play? What if instead she chose to reclaim her own story? What would that look like?
Right. And I also love that they traditionally took what is a tragedy from a male's point of view and they turned it into the narrator being Shakespeare's wife, Anne, which I thought was incredible. And the whole concept of reimagining that, and also the way that her character and how she gets to narrate the story, and he kind of takes a back seat but is always there with her. I think that was really awesome. And the fact that her character always lined up with Juliet's, and how she wrote for Juliet and narrated the story is also what she felt like, as she said several times throughout the play. Like, she's like, it's my turn, which I thought was so powerful, even like as a woman, yes, but especially as a mom, which she said, like that hit home for me because I am a mom. So this was actually my second like time away from Joey that I got to hang out with the girls, and it's hard and it's really like sad but also really exciting because I always think like, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to do it, or I'll go home early or whatever. But I ended up staying and like watching the play after my poor son hit his head and had to, go get stitches, but he's fine. But he's fine. And I'm so happy I did, because within the show, her saying like, it's mommy's day out. It's my time. Like, I'm always home with the kids and I'm always, in the house doing the chores, doing this, doing that. You get to go experience these other worlds by writing. I don't have that. So like that was so powerful for me as a mom and like just as a woman in general, because it's so true. I get so wrapped up in everything is about my son, which that's great, but I forget what it's like to be Tina sometimes. So I think it's nice that this was a really exciting way to figure out like, wow, Anne apparently forgot what it was like to be Anne, and she's calling that out, and that took home for me. That was the cake, and I knew she was my favorite from when she said that. But
absolutely.
And Tina, what are the chances that happened?
I know.
You go on a trip and your poor son hits his head, needs stitches. Like, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and then for our listeners, Joey's only 2, so like it's not like he's an older kid, and it was traumatizing. And I told everyone, I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna head home. I'm freaking out. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? What am I going to do? By the time I take the train back home, that's a good, like, let's say I think it was like an hour and a half commute. So by the time I do that, get home, somebody picks me up from the train station, I get to wherever they are, if they're even still there. He already had the stitches done. And it was literally, and it wasn't even stitches. It was glue or something, or it was like 3 quick things. So why am I going to do that? So I was like, you know what? No. And I remember when Jenna, you spoke up and you're like, Tina, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, thank you. Me too. So
it does take a village, though. It does.
It does. And I love that you had that connection with Anne Juliet. I think it just kind of goes to show, like, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I'm not exactly sure when Romeo and Juliet was written. I know we researched that no one really knew Anne. Like, William Shakespeare was this massive, great up and coming artist, and he has a big reputation. He's still known to this day. He's taught in schools, but no one really knew that he had a wife named Anne. And I think we researched it afterwards, and it said that she was just always at home. And while he was in the city, she was just always at home tending to the kids, tending to the house. So it's great to see her going into William's world, saying, like you said, this is me time. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to reclaim my life. And I think it's a testament that, I don't know, hundreds of years later, 50, I don't know, don't quote me on the timeline.
1597.
Yeah,
Jaslyn.
So a
is when it was put
long
out.
time ago, centuries ago, people can still connect to that identity.
Yeah, just a few short 437 years ago.
Oh my gosh. And I think with Anne too, I think it's so cool because yeah, she stepped into his world, but she really made it her own world. She took the pen and she rewrote, and retranscribed the ending. And it was just so powerful to watch her journey through it. And there was some, tension because then William was like, this is my story. And she's like, excuse me, it's my story now. So it's just like really cool to watch.
Yeah, I loved when she broke his quill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the quill.
Oh,
Yeah.
So symbolic. It was great.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know what a quill is, it is a writing utensil.
With a feather.
Made
with
out of a feather.
Made
Yeah.
out of a feather, because I know a lot of us younger generations, they do not even handwrite anymore and we just text. So, and that's the other thing that I like. It was modern, but not at the same time, if that makes sense. Like it was still like historical to like stuff that happened in the past and whatever, but it was also like modern. They did a very modern take on it, which is funny because it's a modern jukebox musical. That's
Right.
literally what the genre is. But I just thought it was so interesting, like, why with the quill? Yeah, and they kept like the actual character, William Shakespeare, is a character in this play,
Yeah.
which obviously we don't get Shakespeare in Romeo and Juliet. We just get his made up characters, which makes sense. But in this, we also get his wife, Anne. So,
Yeah.
which again, like you were saying, I had no idea. I never even thought of her point of view for anything. And the fact that she even has an entire monologue stating that like she's often forgot about, and he gets to make up all these characters and this love language and um, these beautiful plays and tragedies and all of the things, and he gets to go around and become famous while she's there raising kids.
No, absolutely. And that's funny. I didn't think while we were watching that, what you said about how it kind of blends kind of like the old times to like a newer modern technology. I didn't even think about that until you said that, which is really interesting. Uh, and for our listeners, this was my first ever Broadway show I've ever seen. I've never really been into musicals, and so I was kind of hesitant going into this, and I like thinking I don't know if I will like it, but as soon as I sat down, I was so captivated. Like I could not take my eyes off. I was laughing, I was singing along, and I know you said that it's kind of like a jukebox musical, and I've just kind of thought since I've never seen a musical, I didn't realize that usually musicals have their own soundtrack and their own songs. What did you guys think about them using classic pop songs like Britney Spears, Katy Perry, Jessie J?
I'm
So
typically not a fan of it, but I really, really liked it. I liked how they incorporated all of the songs into the story so well.
I was literally going to say the same thing because I am such a Broadway nerd. It is unbelievable. And when I heard Anne Juliet, I was like, oh no, and usually, don't kill me, but usually it's because I like the original songs, and I feel like people take a shortcut, is a very kind way of saying it, for originality by just using songs that already exist and making it into a musical. It bothers me. It really does. So when I went in and I had like kind of very low expectations, to be honest, and I was like, I don't think this is going to be good, but whatever. Like, it is what it is. It's for research. And then so as I was watching it, I was like, oh, I like how they're doing this. So what they do is they'll take a really pivotal moment and for a character or their journey and use that with the song. So like Jazz said in the beginning where they used Jessie J's Domino, that was the moment where I believe it was Anne finally getting dolled up and going out for the first time, right? And getting like her hair done up and with Juliet and everything. So they were both, it was again, like there we go with the mirroring of each other's characters, is they were both getting dolled up to go out for the first time by themselves or like with their girlfriends and friends. And it was just like really cool how they used it as storytelling and not just cheesy, like, hey, let's just do a random High School Musical number right now. No offense.
No, but I agree. It didn't feel forced at all. It like
No.
the story naturally broke into song and it made a lot of sense. Like they did a great job.
Yeah, no, I agree, Jenna. The song choices were definitely intentional and they wove into the story seamlessly, for sure.
Now, of course, there's always going to be like the one or two where you just laugh and be like, why are we singing right now? You know what I mean? Like, but it was done with comedy in mind. You know what I mean? So like, I felt like they got away with it, but that's me being my little harsh self.
Tina the critic.
I am a critic. I missed my calling. I don't know if you guys agree, but my favorite number, because the way it was performed, I want to say, not necessarily the song, even though it is an amazing song and I love Britney Spears, but my favorite one was I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman. And that whole story and that whole character, I need somebody to talk about it right now.
Yeah, I loved May. May was great. My favorite part was when they sang "It's Gonna Be Me."
Yes.
It's gonna be May.
Oh yeah.
So it's gonna be May. Yeah. So I'm on the same train.
About that.
I think about that like once a week.
That brings up a good point too, Caitlin. It's going to be May. I just think it's all like in Romeo and Juliet, obviously the main characters are Romeo and Juliet, but in the spinoff and Juliet, obviously Juliet is the main character, but all of the other characters are not your typical like stagnant secondary characters. Like they all have character development. They all have their own different storylines and different things that they're working through. And I think that all of their storylines aligned with Anne Juliet's and only amplified the themes in the play.
Yeah, for sure.
Agree.
I agree with that. Yeah. It's everybody has their story, right? Anne has her story. William Shakespeare has his story. Like Juliet has her story. May has their story. It's really powerful. It's really about, encouraging personal development and just forging your own path. I think that was the whole, overall theme of the show. But they did such a good job. It's so powerful.
Yeah, right. And then obviously we could talk a little bit about who May is, because nobody would really know if they haven't seen it.
True.
So May is, I'm just reading this off of the character list. May is Juliet's non-binary friend who struggles with societal expectations of gender, which, hello, modern and common and awesome and trending. No, I'm just kidding. But but awesome. I love that. So that was May. They also, okay, so the fact that they gave Anne Hathaway, and that's what she jokingly says, the original Anne Hathaway.
So funny. That was cute, yeah.
Cute. So she writes herself into, which I don't think we touched on yet, she wrote herself into Juliet's story, and her name was April. And then she gave them a best non-binary friend named May. so that was really fun. And it was exciting to see, and if you think of the play and me being a nerdy English major, I have read so much Shakespeare, and it is so true. Like the female characters aren't really fully developed. He always specifically pays attention to the male characters. And the fact that Anne makes note of this and writes herself into it as April, and then it's just, and gives also Angelique was Juliet's confidant and guardian, and I think she was supposed to be, if I remember correctly, it's the nurse from the original play, because that's who Juliet is always around. But Juliet really has no other friends other than her family.
I was just going to ask that because I haven't read Romeo and Juliet probably since 6th grade. Does Juliet even have any friends, or does it even mention anything
No.
besides her family and Romeo?
No, I don't think so. And to that point, it's a broader theme too. Like in the very beginning of Anne Juliet, I don't know if this stuck out to anybody else, but to me it was super powerful. But it was the moment from Romeo and Juliet where she was about to, take the knife and take her own life, and she paused and hesitated. And then I cannot remember who it was, but one of her friends or somebody that was there, it might have been Angelique. I don't remember. But
I think
somebody,
it might have been May.
was it May? Well, they took the knife out of her hands.
Yep.
So like she had
Yeah.
agency to choose not to do that, but she also had that community that assisted her in making that decision and like helped her out in that, okay, you don't want to do this. I can tell. Let me help you. Right. It was so I have chills now just thinking about
Right.
it.
Me too, honestly. And especially like back then, the 1500s, like as a woman, your role was kind of to essentially get married off, have a family, raise your children, tend to the house. Essentially, like that was your role. So I guess when Shakespeare was writing it, and kind of with the gender roles back then, like Juliet, well, she had her family, she had the conflict with the conflicting families, she had a love interest. Let's leave it at that. And as you said, like he didn't fully develop her as a person, because you need that community. Like she was 13 years old, she had friends. And so it's awesome in Anne Juliet to see her community versus just Romeo's, where Romeo had, Mercutio, his cousins and whatnot, and he was able to talk out his feelings and his emotions and his conflicts, whereas Juliet was kind of just up on the balcony.
Jaslyn, to your point too, like in this rework, like Romeo also had his own story. So in the original Romeo and Juliet, like Juliet really didn't have any kind of, like, she was not a protagonist. She was just kind of a side character. If you really think about it, even as a main character, she didn't have any agency, in my opinion, And then, but in Anne Juliet, it did give, Romeo, spoiler alert, came back to life.
Yeah.
Which was so weird, but like so fitting.
I wasn't expecting that.
I know, but then he had his own storyline as well. Like, yes, it was wrapped up, but it wasn't like ignored. It wasn't like, okay, now we tell the women's side and like Romeo doesn't matter. It was like, okay, everybody has their own story. Like it.
Yeah. No, I
love
agree with that. I do too. And it's awesome that when Angelique and May, they saw that she didn't want to end her own life, they put the knife down, and then it's her journey about what do you want to do, Juliet? What do you want to do with your life? Do you want to travel? Do you want to find love? And it's awesome to see her reclaiming that life, where in Romeo and Juliet, her pathway was, again, to get married, start a family. And to tie that back into modern times, I would just say, even in like Juliet, her
having their own story
traditional like role was to find love, and then technically now in Women in Trades, or not in the trades, like it's seen as a male dominated, but women can go into the field as well and really excel.
To your point, Jaslyn, though, I think that it is empowering, and Juliet forging her own path, like it does tie into the trades. It ties into just doing something that's not necessarily expected of you in the time, or it's not really like a typical path for somebody, chime in here, but I just think it's so interesting because yeah, the trades, it's not like a traditionally female or feminine or that kind of
Right.
path. So to be in this industry, it's quote unquote outside of the norm, but the entire
Yeah.
point of Anne Juliet is do you, boo, like.
No, absolutely. And I like the phrase that you said, typical path. And I know we've talked about this before. Actually, it might be in our upcoming podcast, one of our podcast interviews, but it's not usually a typical path for women to go into the trades. Like in my personal experience, when I was younger and our schools had career paths, you know, they would have like a military booth, and all like they would kind of just cater to all of the like the boys in school versus the women. And the same thing, like we would have a couple like trades companies come out, and it would kind of like the boys would flock to it, but the women or the girls really didn't. And because that wasn't the typical path seen for girls. But we know now that, or not now, but we know that that's not true. Women can excel in the trades and can have a very fulfilling career.
And I think, sorry, this is like kind of off topic, but like representation is also so important. And even though Anne created the character of Juliet, as she created this character, she saw, how happy and how fulfilled Juliet was. And then she inserted herself into that realm, into that world. She saw herself being represented, and she felt empowered to like go and be that person or live that life or be in that world. And like, that was so
No, absolutely
big. Yeah.
It all ties back to community.
Mm-hmm.
You see someone else that you kind of see as a peer, or maybe like a mentor, an idol, a role model, and you see that they're doing it. So you kind of take a step back and you kind of let down those mental barriers, and you're like, oh,
Yep.
maybe I can do this too.
Yeah, it's much easier to see yourself in that position when you see somebody that is like you in that position. Like yeah.
I know we Googled about Shakespeare and his wife Anne, and if anyone knows why the only thing he left her in his will is their bed, please message us and let me know, because I'm so curious.
I feel like I looked it up and it was something it actually made sense. It wasn't as nefarious as it sounded. It was like something about, oh God, like guests in the home, but to leave the second bed. Like they had like a first bed somewhere, but they didn't use it. Don't quote me, but it wasn't as bad as it came off.
I thought it was just like a very eccentric choice.
Well, let me just say, because I did Google it for you. So it was his second best bed. So
because that's the one they actually used, right?
So apparently it's a sentimental gesture, because the second best bed would have been the marital bed they shared throughout their marriage, holding significant sentimental value rather than being a lesser quality bed. So because the best bed was reserved for guests.
Yep.
Now, no offense, but if my husband left me a bed, and let's be frank here, like he was a very established author, and to this day, after 437 years, we're still talking about him, and he's still used, and we still study him in English. Like, I'm pretty sure you can leave a little more than a bed, sweetheart.
Yeah. Going back to having the best bed is for the guest. Maybe I'm not a good host, but my bed is the best bed.
Same.
Everybody else
I'm taking the best bed.
Yeah. You could get the couch. Like, what?
So sorry if anyone stays over my house.
We're doing a good job, but I do have these little notes. Hang on. So I have the are you strong enough, man, to write a strong woman? This didn't just happen. We made it happen. How does my hair look? Oh, so good. That was my favorite.
Yeah. I was sitting next to you, and when they said that, I immediately saw you writing down notes.
I was like, oh my God, that was unexpected and like just so nice.
Yeah. Well, no, it's great to see, especially stereotypically, in a world where they kind of pit women against each other. It's great to see that female friendship and that camaraderie.
No, I mean, it was her to her though. It was like
Oh.
blasting through insecurity. She was like, "Oh, I just went to a party. I'm all sweaty. I'm all gross. Like, how does my hair look?" Oh, so good.
So
I was
good.
like, I died. I was like, "Oh, I love the confidence."
Yeah, the confidence in yourself.
Yeah, like girl, own it. I love that. There's no shame in owning it. You don't have to present insecurity. Like I just feel like
Absolutely.
a lot of the time to make other people or whatever, we just lean toward like self-deprecation and it's
Yeah.
sad, own it. You look great.
It is. And like I know we talk about community a lot and like how Juliet's friends lifted her up, and we also could talk about, like you're saying, like for ourselves and being that kinder to ourselves and doing that, and how this theme of love all around isn't just for romantic love, it's for friendship, it's for self-love, it's for
Yep.
it's for all of that.
Though with what you were saying, Tina, especially about the self-love, because I don't know why I'm like this, but when someone gives me a compliment, I automatically am like, you have to be modest. You have to like not contradict them, but like
Yes.
just kind of be like,
Mhm.
oh, really? I don't know. Versus just being like, you're right, I am. Like, thank you for noticing or recognizing.
Mhm.
So I need to share a quick story about that because you guys are going to think it's hilarious, but it's also kind of sad. So me and a friend have an ongoing joke about that because I brought it up where if she would come in and she would compliment me on something, like let's say she's like, oh my God, I love your top. Why can't I just say thank you? Immediately I go, oh, thanks, it's so old though. Or, oh, there's a
Right?
hole here. Or, oh, I feel fat today. Or whatever, right? Like immediately. But if I were a different person, a man in particular, whenever I've complimented a man, they'd be, oh, thank you. That's all they say. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I have
Thanks,
to
me
automatically
too.
defend myself? Right.
Right.
So the other day, I walked into work and one of my coworkers said, wow, your makeup looks amazing today. And you know what I said? I know, right?
Heck yeah,
I love
Tina.
that.
As you should.
Tina, own it. Yeah.
Yes. So I feel like that was very much like that moment of Anne looking in the mirror of herself going, how's my hair? Oh, it's so good. Like, so, and it's funny. And you'll notice, like, if you do that, I not only made them laugh, I made whoever heard it laugh, and I made myself laugh. And everyone
Yeah.
was like, that was an awesome comeback. I was like, thanks. Instead of being like, oh, I messed up my eyeliner, actually, look right here. Like
Yeah.
instead of talking down about myself, I was like, sure, I'll take it. Thank you. And I'll
Mhm.
one up it and agree with you.
And there's nothing
love
wrong with that
Nope.
at all.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're like taught that there is something wrong with that.
So I encourage you all to do that.
Yes. Can I share something? When somebody, I love this. My best friend taught me this. When somebody's talking down on themselves, look at them and just say, don't talk about my best friend like that. Like, don't talk about my friend like that.
Yes, I love that.
And it
Oh, I just got
reframes it.
chills.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? It's like
I
so,
like that.
I know. It's so cool. It's so powerful. It's like, hey, knock it off.
You 1,000% said that to me while we were in New York because
Yeah,
I
no,
did it then. 1,000% you did.
I mean, it tracks. I love it so much.
I love it. Happy
Yeah.
Galentine.
I also this might
Aw, I
be
love
this
you.
might be a little off topic too. I just think like men, women, I think everyone's just conditioned to be modest or self-deprecating. And they don't like I'm reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. Sponsor us. That's what they say on podcasts. I don't know. But so, and he is talking about how to, like, for example, if you want to quit smoking and changing your beliefs of yourself versus trying to just change a bad habit. So like if someone offers you a cigarette, instead of saying no thanks, I'm looking to quit, or I'm trying to quit smoking, instead of saying that, like, because that makes it seem like you are a smoker but you're trying to quit, instead just say no thanks, I'm not a smoker. And that kind of just changes in your brain the way you see yourself. It changes your identity. So going back towards the self-deprecation, like, we just gotta, as a society, I think, be more confident and keep telling ourselves, no, I am great at makeup, I am smart, confident,
Yes.
whatever, however you see yourself, to, and maybe that might help too.
Yeah,
If you
Jazz,
know,
words are so powerful.
so powerful.
Internal talk, talking out loud, like all of it, it's so powerful. You can get lost in a book in a completely different universe. Like words are
Mhm.
so powerful.
I think that's also a theme in Anne Juliet too, like the
Mhm.
power that words have, especially with when they're writing with the quill, and then as soon as
Right.
they're writing to make edits, I know Shakespeare and Anne kind of like go back and forth, like, and then all of a sudden the whole entire cast like just kind of switches gears. Like it proves that words are powerful. What you say, what you write, like it does matter.
Yeah, I mean, Anne literally wrote herself into the story as Juliet's friend.
Right.
Yeah, she did.
Something I would do.
Yeah, relatable.
I'll save her life. No problem.
I don't know. I said it before, but this was my first Broadway musical. I will be going back to it sometime in the future to watch yet another show, just because I am still amazed that how awesome and captivating it is, especially to see it live. But I thought the show was great. I think my personal takeaway from it, I really loved that central theme of the what if and reclaiming your life. So it really kind of hit a spot where I kind of just started thinking, what do I want to do with my life? Where do I want to be in the next couple years, in the next 5 years, 10 years? And luckily, I know we watched this in September, but then it got me started thinking about, well, because every year I do resolutions, and I was like, what do I want to make for my resolutions? And I actually set time for myself for a good like hour or 2 hours just to really imagine my life and what I want in it. What if I did this? What if I do that? And put a plan into action to succeed that. So thank you, Anne Juliet, because now I'm back in school.
I love
Yeah.
that for you, Jocelyn.
Thank you. What about you guys? What did you think about the ending? What do you think really resonated with you most?
The one piece of confetti.
The
And-
confetti.
The confetti.
And wait, who saved that, Caitlin? The one piece of a confetti in Caitlin's notebook.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
my favorite
resonated with
part.
me. So the confetti, they shoot off a giant confetti cannon at the end. I mean, like the biggest I've ever seen, which when they're singing, what song were they singing?
I don't
Roar.
know, but it was magical.
Was it Roar?
Yeah, it was Roar, I think.
Yeah, Roar by
I really felt
Katy
like
Perry.
I really felt like I was in a snow globe in that moment. That was like the
Yeah.
best moment of my life.
No, I 100% agree. The confetti was a fantastic choice too, because it kind of felt like a celebration. Kind of like Anne, May, and Juliet, all of the characters in the cast, like I know we keep saying this, sorry for being a broken record, but they reclaimed their life. They chose what they wanted to do. And it was just kind of a celebration of their choices in their life, and including kind of breaking that third wall and including the audience by dropping the confetti on us. Like you could just feel that warmth with them.
They did a great job with including the audience in it. So that's something that I was going to touch on too. And that's probably one of my favorite parts as a theater nerd. So in the very beginning, I don't know if you guys remember, but literally before the lights are dim, which rarely ever happens in a Broadway show, they come out on stage one by one and start like dancing and getting the audience and like audience playing, right? So like meaning that they go out and they're looking at us and they're waving up at us in the nosebleeds and start dancing, and like we all like start getting, and then like, you know, making us clap along during songs and like engaging with us, not just treating us as viewers. I thought that was pretty
Right.
cool. So at the end, like with the confetti, like that's a perfect example. It's like, hey, you're part of this story too. And take this as you will, you know, as you take this as you want to, but it's up to you to write your own story as well, just like we did.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Like when Shakespeare and Anne at the end, they basically are like, well, there doesn't have to be like some, I don't know, I guess conclusive ending. It's just like we can just keep going. Like this is just still our story that we're writing. We can continue on. It's like a new beginning.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Jenna, what was your favorite part?
Well, so the one thing the last thing in my notebook that I wrote down was wedding vows to herself.
Yes.
Oh yes, I love that too.
Right? Like it's like a promise to herself to love herself and do her thing. Like thoughts?
No, I 100% agree. That kind of goes again back into the traditional, typical life that Anne Juliet was supposed to have, where she was supposed to make vows to Romeo, reclaiming her own life. She makes them to herself instead.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, if you've seen the show, feel free to message us about your thoughts, comments, reviews. We'd love to hear that. If you haven't seen the show and you listen to the podcast, please definitely go check it out. It is worth a listen.
Book a trip to New York. Watch it on Broadway. You'll thank us later.
They've got a new cast now too. If anyone's into TikTok, Charlie D'Amelio's on the cast now.
And Joey Fatone from NSYNC.
Oh,
no way.
Yeah, so definitely check it out. It is 100% worth the watch. And let us know what you think. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to listen with us, and happy
Galentine's
Day! Woohoo! Don't forget to, especially in February, show gratitude to the ones you love, the ones in your life, especially yourself. Never forget to love yourself. And on that note,
please like and subscribe. Bye.
Bye.